Exposed, a lost child's heartwarming plea transforms a CEO's life, an incredible journey of hope. The sun beamed down on the bustling suburban town as families flooded the annual community festival, laughter spilling into the air like confetti. Jake, a hard-working single father in his late 30s, grasped his young son Max's tiny hand tightly. This was their day, a break from the grind of multiple jobs, a chance to let joy seep into their lives. They ambled through vibrant booths filled with handmade crafts and steaming plates of food. To Jake, this was more than just a festival, it was a moment to build memories and give Max a taste of happiness that felt sometimes just out of reach. "Look, Dad. That's where they make the cotton candy." Max squealed, his face lighting up with delight. The sweetness of his son's joy filled Jake's heart, overshadowing the weight of bills and worries lurking on the edges of his mind. But like a shadow, the nagging thought of financial struggles crept closer. He needed this moment to be perfect, a brief escape from their reality. Yet, in a heartbeat, everything changed. A fleeting moment of distraction, Max's eyes catching the shimmer of a bouncing ball, and he was gone. Panic surged through Jake's chest, tight and suffocating, as the crowd swallowed his boy whole. "Max!" he shouted, voice barely piercing the din. He pushed past smiling families and colorful booths, each face a blur, his heart racing like a drum in a marching band. Across town, Sarah, a powerful tech CEO, prowled the festival in an immaculate navy suit, a stark contrast to the festive chaos around her. She was on a mission, shaking hands and selling ideas, but each connection felt hollow. The laughter and warmth amongst families jarred her, buzzing like flies around a wound. Longing for what she never had, she felt as if she was living in a gilded cage, imprisoned by the success she fought tooth and nail to attain. As she moved through the crowd, her gaze fell on a small figure sitting alone on a bench, tears glistening on Max's cheeks. Instinct kicked in, she knelt beside him. "Hey, buddy, what's wrong?" Max looked up, his tears sparkling with confusion and yearning. "I lost my dad. I just wanted to have fun." His voice trembled, slicing through the protective walls Sarah had built around her heart. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. In that moment, a shift ignited within Sarah. As Max poured his heart out, each word was like a spark lighting a kindling under her previously flickering compassion. Here he was, a brave little boy, exposing the vulnerabilities of a world that could easily crush dreams, laying bare the disparities of their town. She realized their struggles were connected, despite their different worlds. But when news spread of a city hall decision set to end vital festivals like this, events that brought families like Jake's together, she faced a fierce inner conflict, her corporate loyalties battling with the stirring empathy Max awakened within her. Little Max's dreams were the heart of community, and the vulnerability that once tormented her now echoed in a child's voice. As Jake emerged from the crowd, finally spotting Max on the bench beside the impressive blonde CEO, desperation clawed through him. He had to reclaim his son, but what he found instead was a moment that could change everything. With the festival teetering perilously, the community's strength to unite and fight for their future hung like a delicate thread. Here at this crossroads, could a plea from a lost child bloom into a beacon of hope for them all? Would love and connection push them to redefine their paths, or would the weight of corporate ambitions steal the bright laughter from their town? The air thickened with uncertainty, the answers shrouded in the warmth of the festival glow. Jake's heart raced as he darted towards the bench, fear morphing into sheer disbelief. His eyes scanned the scene as he made his way through the throng, taking in the bright colors of balloons and the jubilant sounds of children playing. But the sight of Max sitting beside the CEO sent a wave of confusion through him, mingled with gratitude. Relief and trepidation flickered across his face. What was happening? Max. He called again, the urgency in his tone shattering the cheerful noises around them. Max turned at the sound of his father's voice, and the moment their eyes locked was electric, a small universe where everything felt right again. Dad! Max cried out, leaping from the bench and racing into Jake's arms. Jake embraced him tightly, the warmth engulfing him as the tension melted from his shoulders. Behind them, Sarah stood, momentarily caught off guard. She felt like an outsider intruding on a sacred moment. "Are you okay, buddy?" Jake whispered, kneeling to meet Max's gaze. His voice trembled but held steady. "I was scared, Dad. I just wanted to have fun." Max's small body quivered, and the tears he had shed sparkled like jewels against his flushed cheeks. Jake brushed the tears away with his thumb, visibly shaken. "I know, kiddo, we'll have fun together. Just like we planned." He glanced over at Sarah, his protective instincts rising, unsure whether to thank her or question her presence. "Who are you?" he asked, the edge in his voice clear. Sarah took a slow, steady breath. "I'm Sarah. I'm sorry to intrude. I just wanted to help." Her sincerity spilled out, her corporate mask slipping for just a moment. Something in Jake's eyes softened, but mistrust remained like a protective barrier around his heart. Max piped up, "She helped me find you." Jake felt the tightness in his chest loosen. He turned his gaze back to Sarah, really looking at her for the first time. The contrast of her sharp suit against the vibrant festival felt jarring, yet there was a flicker of vulnerability in her eyes he hadn't noticed before. "Thank you," Jake said slowly, attempting to show appreciation while still holding his son tightly. The festival continued around them, a swirl of laughter and life, but a weighty silence hung in their little trio. Sarah felt her heart tug at the sight of father and son, a bond warm and real, unlike the empty connections she had always sought in boardrooms and conferences. In this moment, she wondered if she could step away from her world of business and embrace something bigger. Could this lost child's plea turn into a catalyst for change? "Max," Jake began, exchanging glances with Sarah, "do you want some cotton candy?" The boy's eyes lit up, just like before, his childhood innocence shining through the layers of their earlier fear. "Yes, please." Max cheered, pulling his dad towards the vendors, yet Jake paused, looking back at Sarah. "I don't know what's next for this town," Jake admitted, "or for us. But if you're involved in those decisions." His voice trailed off, filled with unspoken hopes and worries. "Yes, I am," Sarah replied, her heart racing. "And I want to help. I can't change the past, but maybe together, we can change what's coming." At that moment, the sound of the crowd faded into a soft hum, and a new kind of tension filled the air, a palpable spark of possibility. They shared a silent understanding, three lives navigating the fragile balance between hardship and hope. As laughter erupted from nearby, Max tugged at his father's sleeve, "Come on, Dad. Cotton candy." Jake turned back to his son, a renewed sense of purpose igniting within him. Together they started walking toward the spinning machine in the distance, but behind them, Sarah felt a shift deep inside. The journey ahead promised to be challenging, but with each step, it felt less daunting. What awaited them at the festival was uncertain, but the question loomed large: could their alliance blur the lines between personal ambition and community well-being? Would they illuminate a path in a world where decisions often dimmed the light of joy and togetherness? As cotton candy began to swirl in vibrant colors, hopes and dreams danced in the air. As the trio approached the cotton candy stand, the aroma of spun sugar filled the air, wrapping around them like a comforting hug. Max's squeal of delight broke through the haze of uncertainty that had settled over Jake and Sarah. For that brief moment, the strain of adult decisions faded into the background, replaced by the innocence of a child's laughter. "I want the blue one, Dad." Max exuded excitement, pointing at the machine where thick clouds of sugar were twirling into fluffy clouds of delight. His eyes sparkled with uncontainable joy. Jake smiled, his heart swelling as he nodded. "Blue it is. What about you, Sarah?" Would you like some? The invitation felt strange yet natural, like a bridge forming where there had only been walls before. Oh, I couldn't she started, a familiar reluctance creeping back in. People like her didn't enjoy simple pleasures, right? But in that moment, she felt a stirring inside her. Maybe stepping outside her comfort zone could lead to something new. Please. It's the best part of the festival. Max chimed in, his enthusiasm infectious. She couldn't resist the earnestness in his little voice. All right, just a small one then, Sarah relented, her smile growing genuine, even if tinged with hesitation. She was learning to embrace moments that felt foreign. As Jake paid for the treats, he fell into easy conversation with the vendor, drawing a few laughs and admiring glances from customers nearby. Sarah watched, feeling an unfamiliar pang of longing for that connection, that warmth only family could provide. There was a time when she had come to these events, laughing with childhood friends, before ambition had carved her world into stark lines of success. Here we go. Jake announced, handing the sticky cones to Max and Sarah. The sweetness of the cotton candy was overwhelming, and for Max, it symbolized everything wonderful about this day. The boy took a massive bite, eyes gleaming, but then his gaze drifted, examining the crowd. Dad, can we go on the Ferris wheel next? He asked, pointing toward the towering structure shimmering against the blue sky. Jake hesitated, his heart sinking slightly. The Ferris wheel meant heights and heights meant fear. He had once envisioned sharing thrilling rides filled with laughter, not worrying about his strength or whether he could carry the weight of being a single parent. But he felt the squeeze of Max's small hand on his, the gentle reminder of hope. Okay, Max. We'll do it together. The words flew out, driven by an unexpected urgency. Can I go too? Sarah asked, her voice tentative yet hopeful. She wanted to be included, to know what it felt like to share joy like they did. Sure. It'll be fun. Max beamed, and Jake found himself reciprocating the same breadth of hope, his earlier worries fading into the cotton candy clouds around them. As they made their way to the Ferris wheel, Jake caught a glimpse of the town's festival backdrop, a bright array of community booths, families mingling, laughter echoing through the air. It was a tapestry of connection he had long yearned for but had been too clouded by his own struggles to see. But standing there, with Max and Sarah, something shifted within him. He realized that this was not just about him finding his footing or Sarah discovering a different side to herself, it was about understanding what it meant to build a community together. Each spin of the Ferris wheel would echo with the laughter and fears they shared. As they lined up for the ride, a sudden gust of wind carried a sense of possibility, leaving Jake pondering the question that surged in him. What if this was the beginning of something greater, a transformation that could touch not only their lives but the town itself? And as they stepped into the swaying gondola, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that the winds of change were just starting to swirl around them. Would they have the courage to confront what lay ahead, both in the ride and the challenges of their lives? As the Ferris wheel began to ascend, their hearts raced, each rotation revealing new heights and perspectives, yet holding on to a sense of unity that felt electric, the possibilities opening like the horizon unfolding beneath them. What awaited them at the top, in a world full of unknowns and shared dreams? The gondola swayed gently, creaking as they climbed higher. Max squealed, his small body bouncing in excitement. Look, Dad. We're almost at the top. His voice carried a mix of exhilaration and innocence that made Jake's heart swell. Sarah gripped the handle with both hands, eyes wide as they rose into the sky. A wave of nerves rushed over her, but it was tinged with something more, vulnerability meeting exhilaration. She had always been the one to hold back, to play it safe. But here, surrounded by laughter and bright colors, there was a crack in her shell. Isn't it amazing? Jake said, glancing at Sarah, who gazed out at the carnival below. Her face was bathed in golden sunlight, and for a fleeting moment, she looked as free as Max. It is, she breathed, the words spilling over before she could think twice. Up above, the world seemed smaller. The festival spread out like a vibrant quilt, tent tops in red and yellow, laughter syncing with the music drifting from a nearby stage. Jake felt like they were floating, moments crystallizing into memories, the kind that could forge paths for new beginnings. "Dad, look at that big clown." Max pointed at a performer who danced enthusiastically, his oversized shoes flopping comically. Jake laughed, letting the moment carry him. Everything felt more vivid up here. "Yeah. Yes, pretty silly." He encouraged Max to lean out as far as safety would allow, which made his son giggle even harder. As they reached the top, the gondola paused for what felt like a heartbeat. The view was breathtaking. Jake's breath caught as he looked out over the horizon, a tapestry of green fields, the distant trees framing the sky. This wasn't just a carnival, it was life unfolding in real time. But then, Jake felt a familiar tightening in his chest. He leaned back, momentarily lost in his thoughts. What if he could craft a life this beautiful for Max? What if this was more than a fleeting moment? The responsibilities and worries felt far away up here, but they would return soon enough. "Hey, Jake." Sarah's voice broke through his spiral of thoughts. She was looking at him, a gentle intensity in her gaze. "You all right?" That simple question struck him harder than expected. Could she see through the brave facade he had been putting up? He nodded, but only half meaning it. "Let's take a selfie," Max suggested, his excitement pulling them back into the moment. Jake glanced at his son, and a surge of affection washed over him. "Good idea," Jake said, putting on his best smile as they leaned in together, arms draped over one another with the carnival backdrop behind them. As Max pressed the button on the camera, laughter erupted, and for a brief second, it felt like they had created a snapshot of something enduring, a bridge between past challenges and future hopes. After the picture, they slowly began their descent. The ride seemed to linger in their hearts just as much as it did in time. As the gondola swung back toward the ground, Sarah suddenly turned serious. "You know, sometimes facing your fears can be the start of something new." Her words hung in the air like the sweet smell of cotton candy, sweet, but laced with truth. Jake looked at her, sensing a shared understanding, a possibility in their connection. Max's laughter filled the air again, buoyant and fearless. But Jake couldn't shake Sarah's comment. What fears held him back? The question lingered as they hopped off the ride, the swirling colors of the festival beckoning them onward. "Let us go check out the games," Max yelled, racing ahead with determination, not noticing the weight of what was developing behind him. Jake and Sarah fell into step next to each other, a new current filtering between them, as unsteady and electrifying as the festival itself. It was then that Jake realized this day was not just a celebration, it could mark the start of something transformative for all of them. If they had the courage to dive deeper, to really connect. As they navigated through laughter and vibrant lights, Jake felt something unfurling inside him, like a blooming flower ready to face the sun. What else could they discover together as the day unfolded? What dreams were lying just out of sight, waiting for them to unearth them? In that moment of awakening, a flicker of hope ignited deep within Jake. What adventures could the next stop on their journey hold? The vibrant sounds of the carnival pulsed around them as Jake and Sarah followed Max, who dashed ahead, his enthusiasm infectious. They made their way through the throngs of people, past booths brimming with games and dazzling prizes. The laughter of children mingled with the playful music, pulling Jake's spirit higher. "Look at that ring toss. I bet I can win the biggest stuffed bear," Max exclaimed, his eyes wide with determination as he pointed at the large plush toys displayed at the game stall. "You think so?" Jake challenged playfully. His heart raced, not just with excitement, but with a burgeoning realization that these simple moments were more meaningful than he had ever acknowledged. As they approached the game, Jake noticed Sarah lingering slightly behind. She seemed captivated by a group of kids giggling nearby. When their eyes met, he saw something deeper in her gaze, a reflection of his own thoughts. "Let me give it a try first," Sarah said suddenly, pulling herself into the moment. Jake was surprised but intrigued. "All right. Show us how it's done," he encouraged, stepping back as she approached the counter. With a quick look of determination, Sarah picked up a ring. It arced elegantly through the air but missed the bottles completely. She let out a laugh, shaking her head. "Okay, that wasn't the best start. Try again." Max cheered, his bright smile lighting up her face. Jake watched as Sarah's cheeks flushed with a mix of embarrassment and amusement. The moment seemed to break all walls. She picked up another ring, and this time, it landed perfectly. The bottles rattled and one tipped over. The vendor smiled, handing her a small prize, a colorful keychain in the shape of a star. "Look! I got something!" Sarah exclaimed, her eyes glimmering with newfound joy that seemed to shine brighter than the prize itself. Jake clapped, his heart warming at this side of her. This wasn't just about a game, it was about breaking free, about embracing what had always felt out of reach. "That's awesome. You're a natural." Max jumped up and down, excitedly showing off his mom's little victory. There was an understanding between Jake and Sarah now, something crackling in the air, an unspoken invitation to let their bravest selves shine. "Okay, your turn, Dad," Max said, charging back to the game booth. Jake felt a rush as he stepped forward, a mix of excitement and the old, familiar pull of insecurity. "What if I lose?" he thought for a split second. But then he glimpsed Sarah's warm smile from the corner of his eye, and the hesitation melted away. He picked up the ring, took a deep breath, and tossed. It landed. He couldn't believe it. One bottle tipped. Then the next. Jake's heart raced. With one final ring, he sent it soaring and watched it land a direct hit. The bottles crashed down in a satisfying clatter. Max screamed with excitement, and even Sarah jumped up with joyful disbelief. "You did it!" she cheered, rushing over to wrap her arms around him, the keychain dangling between them as a shared token of that beautiful, unexpected moment. Jake felt pure joy. In that embrace, he became aware of something shifting inside him. This was more than a carnival, it was a reminder that he could let go and embrace vulnerability, no matter how scary. Just then, a loud announcement echoed through the fair, calling everyone to the main stage for a special performance. The air charged with anticipation. "Want to check it out?" Jake asked, glancing at Sarah and Max. "Absolutely," Sarah replied, her eyes sparkling with excitement. As they headed toward the stage, Jake pondered the possibilities ahead. What more could this day reveal about themselves and each other? Every step felt charged with hope. But as they approached the crowd, Jake noticed a little boy standing alone, his gaze lost in the festival's chaos. What could this unexpected encounter mean for them all? Jake's heart sank as he spotted the little boy, no more than 6 or 7, with tear-streaked cheeks and big, scared eyes. The carnival's vibrant atmosphere seemed to swirl around him in stark contrast to the child's distress. He was a tiny island of vulnerability in a sea of laughter and excitement. "Hey, is everything all right?" Jake asked gently, kneeling down to the boy's level. Max and Sarah paused, uncertainty flickering in their eyes. The boy blinked hard, trying to swallow a sob. I can't find my mom," he stammered, his voice trembling. The weight of the child's fear hit Jake like a ton of bricks. Without thinking, he instinctively reached out, placing a reassuring hand on the boy's shoulder. "Don't worry. We'll help you find her," Jake promised, his own heart racing not with excitement anymore, but with determination. Max looked up at Jake, eyes wide. "Can we really help him, Dad?" "Absolutely, buddy," Jake replied, standing up and surveying the crowd. Sarah stepped closer, her expression shifting from concern to fierce resolve. "Let's split up," she suggested, glancing at them. "I can check by the food stalls, and you two can look near the games." There was an urgency in her voice, and it filled Jake with gratitude. "Good idea," he agreed, trying to gather all the hope he could muster. He knew how easy it was to lose someone in a crowd like this. "Okay, what's your name, buddy?" he asked, focusing back on the little boy. "Zach," he murmured, wiping his eyes with the back of his hand. "Zach, we're going to find your mom. Just stick close to us, okay?" Jake reassured him, nudging Max along to follow. They started moving through the bustling fairgrounds, scanning faces in hopes of finding the right one. Kayaks of colorful lights twinkled above them while the smell of popcorn wafted through the air, but none of it mattered now. "Mom!" Zach cried out instinctively, but no one turned. Each shout felt heavier than the last, echoing back his fear. The joy they felt moments ago seemed to evaporate, replaced by urgency and a growing desperation. Max tugged on Jake's shirt. "If I was lost, I'd want you to find me, Dad." The innocence in his voice pierced through Jake's heart. "I know, buddy. We are going to succeed," Jake responded, adjusting his grip on Zach's shoulder. Suddenly, Sarah reappeared, her face a mixture of relief and optimism. "I checked the food stalls, but no sign. There are a lot of families, though. Maybe we should look near the main stage, it could get her attention." Jake nodded. "Let us head there. Just a little further, Zach. You're doing great." As they neared the stage, Jake's mind raced. What if they didn't find her? Would Zach's eyes always be filled with that kind of fear, tangled with hope? Zach remained quiet, his small hand clutching tightly to Jake's. A slight tremor ran through the child. At that moment, Jake realized just how heavy the responsibility weighed on him. It wasn't merely about finding a lost child's mother, it was about offering comfort, about showing that even in the most chaotic of times, kindness could shine through the dark. But amid the worry, a piercing scream brought them all to a halt. "Zach!" Jake turned to see a woman pushing through the crowd, eyes wild with fear. Hope ignited within him as the little boy's gaze lit up, brightening the shadows deep in his spirit. "Mom!" Zach shouted, breaking into a run, straight toward her. Jake felt a wave of relief wash over him, but as he watched the reunion unfold, he realized this moment was more than a simple rescue. It was a reminder of the ties that unite them all, the fragility of family, and the warmth of human connection. As he and Sarah shared a knowing look, there beneath the bright lights of the carnival, a newfound respect began to blossom, inching its way into their hearts. What Jake didn't expect was that this moment of vulnerability would ignite a shift in him, urging him towards something much deeper. But just then, as he turned to share his thoughts with Sarah, he noticed a flicker of sadness still lingering in the boy's eyes. What unspoken past could linger there, waiting to surface? Jake's eyes widened as he noticed the lingering sadness in Zach's expression. The joyful reunion with his mother didn't erase the shadows lurking beneath the boy's playful exterior. As the two embraced tightly, wanting nothing more than to feel safe, Jake's mind spiraled with questions. Had there been more to the boy's story? Maybe unspoken fears that echoed louder than the laughter around them? That tiny flicker of sorrow tugged at Jake, causing his heart to thrum with an urgency he couldn't explain. "Hey, Max," Jake said, kneeling next to his son who was watching the reunion with wide eyes. "Do you think we should check in on Zach once they're done? Just to make sure he is okay?" Max nodded, the sincerity of the moment sinking in. Jake believed in looking out for others, one of the core values he wanted to instill in his son. "Yeah, I think so. I mean, he looked super scared." Before Jake could note the moment, Zach and his mother broke apart, her hands still cupping his face. The woman glanced around, catching her breath while scanning the bustling carnival. "Hey, you two!" Jake called out, waving gently. "Mind if we ask Zach a quick question?" The woman turned, her brow furrowing slightly, unsure at first, but then she smiled, nodding in agreement. Zach's expression shifted to confusion as he stepped back from his mother, a hint of shy curiosity dancing on his features. Sure. Zach, buddy," Jake started, crouching to be eye level with the boy again. "Are you alright? You seemed really upset earlier." Zach bit his lip, glancing back at his mom before nodding. I was just scared. Mom said we could ride the Ferris wheel, and then I saw the games," and then his words trailed off, the weight of the chaos swallowing up the sounds of the carnival. Jake could see the boy was trying to express something deeper, something that churned inside him. "Sometimes," Jake said softly, "when we are at places like this, it feels like there are a million things around us. And if we aren't careful, we can lose track of the people we love." Zach looked at Jake, the worry still swirling in his innocent eyes. He nodded slowly, as if the words had resonated in a special way. "Yeah, I just wanted to be with her," Zach whispered, the raw edge of vulnerability showing in his voice. Jake felt a lump form in his throat. "You know, it's okay to feel that way. It shows how much you love your mom." Zach's mother stepped closer, wrapping her arms around him. "Thank you for helping my son find me," she said, her voice laced with gratitude as her eyes shimmered with emotion. "I am so glad he is safe." Jake could only smile, warmed by the connection formed through this simple act of compassion. "It was our pleasure, truly." He glanced at Max, who stood quietly beside him, eyes reflecting an understanding far beyond his years. "Hey, would you like to ride the Ferris wheel with us, Zach?" Jake asked, hopeful. "Just so you can feel the safety with your mom by your side." As Zach's face lit up, the worries melted away for a brief moment. "Really? Can we, Mom?" His mother beamed. "Absolutely." Jake led the small group toward the towering ride, but as they went, he noticed a distant pain behind Zach's laughter, a hint of something deeper that demanded exploration. Could a moment like this spark an even greater journey? As the Ferris wheel began to rise, the world below them shrunk into colored lights. Jake stole a glance at Sarah, sharing an unspoken agreement. They were embarking on a journey together, not just for Zach, but to discover what that flicker in his eyes truly meant. What hidden parts of life would reveal themselves when they all stepped off the ride? As the Ferris wheel slowly ascended, Jake felt a surge of energy flow through him. The vibrant lights of the carnival twinkled against the backdrop of the darkening sky, painting a picturesque scene. But amidst that beauty, he could still feel the weight of Zach's earlier fear clinging in the air. Zach, nestled between his mom and Jake, was a bundle of nervous energy. His fingers fidgeted as they clutched the safety bar in front of them. Just as he seemed to relax, a gust of wind swayed the car, causing him to gasp. Jake leaned closer, sensing this boy needed reassurance. "Look, Zach," Jake said, pointing to the glittering lights below. "See that? All those little lights? That's everyone having fun, just like us." Zach's eyes darted back and forth, drinking in the spectacle, but the tension remained on his face. His mother gently stroked his hair, whispering words of comfort that melted the space between them. "It's like we're on top of the world, huh?" Jake added, hoping to draw out a smile. Zach finally let out a small chuckle, the sound light and pure. For that moment, it seemed the weight on his shoulders lifted, if only just a little. "What's your favorite thing about carnivals?" Jake asked, trying to steer the conversation into brighter waters. "The popcorn," Zach exclaimed, his enthusiasm spilling out. "I love it when it's all warm and buttery." "Same here." Max piped up, his excitement contagious. "And the rides? They're so fun. I can't wait to go on the carousel." The boys' chatter began to weave a spell of lightness, and Jake felt a rush of hope. Maybe today was about more than just light and laughter, it was a chance for connection. But still, the shadow of Zach's earlier unease lingered, and Jake couldn't shake the feeling this moment was just a temporary reprieve. Once they reached the top of the Ferris wheel, the view was breathtaking. The sprawling lights of the carnival twinkled beneath them, a canvas of joy and laughter. Jake caught Zach's breathless gasp. "Wow!" The boy replied, captivated by the sight. He turned to his mother, and for the first time, Jake saw pure awe reflected in Zach's eyes. As the ride slowly descended, Jake's heart raced. He knew they couldn't ignore that underlying worry, it was essential to delve deeper. "Hey, Zach," he hesitated, a flicker of uncertainty surfacing. "Are there things that scare you, even when you're having fun?" Zach's expression faltered for a brief moment, and a seriousness clouded his eyes. "Sometimes I worry something will take Mom away again." The words hung between them, heavy with truth. Silence stretched like an echoing chime until his mother squeezed Zach tighter, clearly taken aback. She managed to coax a smile as she spoke reassuringly, but Jake knew this conversation wasn't over. It took courage for Zach to share that fear. The connection Jake felt with Zach deepened. It wasn't just about a fun day at the carnival, they were on a journey where raw emotions were unearthing something profound. As they stepped off the ride, Jake took a moment to breathe, feeling the weight of that exchange settle within him. It was time to face what was lurking in the shadows of their conversation and perhaps in his own heart, too. What paths would their vulnerabilities chart? What transformations awaited them in the heart of that carnival, grounded in joy, yet shrouded with deeper emotions waiting to be uncovered? As the Ferris wheel came to a gentle stop, Jake felt the rush of wind settle around them. He grabbed Zach's hand, squeezing it lightly as they made their way down the steps. The vibrant colors of the carnival surrounded them, a stark contrast to the heaviness of their earlier conversation. A cacophony of laughter and joyous screams echoed above the sound of a brass band playing nearby. "Let's get that popcorn," Jake suggested, trying to reignite the spark he had seen in Zach moments before. Zach nodded, though the smile on his face seemed more forced than genuine. His mother looked at Jake, her gratitude barely contained as she mouthed a quick thank you. The trio followed the enticing aroma to a small stall, the vendor a stout man with a bushy mustache and a welcoming grin. "Who wants popcorn?" he called out, his voice booming over the noise of the crowd. "I do," exclaimed Max, bouncing on his toes. Jake's heart lightened seeing Max's energy bounce back, and he joined in, sharing in the joy of warm popcorn. The vendor filled a massive paper bag, the buttery smell wafting into their noses. Jake handed over some cash and turned to Zach, holding the bag out. "Here, buddy. This is the best part." Zach hesitated for a moment, then his small hands gradually reached for the bag, fingers brushing against Jake's before he pulled away. "Let's sit down over there." Jake beckoned, pointing to a nearby bench partly hidden under strings of colorful lights. They settled in, the three of them enveloped in a circle of warmth and laughter. As they munched on popcorn, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that something deeper was still brewing beneath the surface. He glanced at Zach, who was watching the carnival lights twinkle like stars in a twilight sky. "Hey, Zach, do you remember what you said up there?" Jake asked gently, his heart racing as he ventured into deeper territory. "About your mom." Zach looked down, shuffling his feet. "Yeah, do you want to tell me more?" Jake encouraged, his voice steady but soft, welcoming vulnerability and honesty. Zach's mother held his hand, an anchor beside him. The boy drew in a shaky breath, the seriousness returning to his small features. I don't want to lose her again. It'd hurt too much." His voice was small, almost drowned by the surrounding laughter. Jake felt a knot form in his throat at Zach's words. They were so raw, innocent, yet so heavy. "You know, sometimes it's really good to talk about what scares us. It can help take the weight off our hearts at least a little." Zach looked at him, his wide eyes searching for reassurance. "Like when my dad used to travel for work," Jake began, feeling a connection form as he opened up. "I worried he wouldn't come back. I know how that feels." Zach's eyes softened. "Really?" "Yeah. It was scary. But I learned that the people we love always try their best to be there for us," Jake continued. "And sometimes, they need us to believe in them, too." The boy nodded thoughtfully, a slight smile cracking through the tension that had wrapped around him. "Do you think we can keep talking about our fears more?" Zach asked cautiously, as if the words themselves were fragile. "Absolutely," Jake replied, relief flowing through him. "We're in this together, right?" "Right." Max chimed in, blissfully unaware of the weight of the conversation while reaching for more popcorn. As the night deepened, laughter weaved through the air like a lullaby, but Jake felt a shift within. In the midst of fun, they were diving into the heavy stuff so often ignored. What would be the next challenge to face? What heartwarming revelations awaited them among the lights? As they glanced around the carnival, the future seemed bright but uncertain, bursting with potential and promise. What would they discover next? The carnival glowed in the night, each light shimmering like a promise made under a starry sky. Jake sat on the bench, surrounded by Max and Zach, their laughter intertwining, creating a melody of hope and unity. In that sacred space, he realized they were all connected by shared fears and dreams, a tapestry woven with threads of vulnerability and courage. "Hey, how about we take a group selfie?" Max suggested, his eyes sparkling with mischief. Before Jake could respond, he whipped out his phone, an image of pure joy lighting up his face. "Great idea," Jake said, moving close to Zach and wrapping an arm around his small shoulders. They all squeezed together, and as the camera clicked, Jake felt a surge of warmth inside him. In that moment, he knew they were crafting memories, a small treasure that even the hardest times couldn't tarnish. "Let us make this day unforgettable," Sarah chimed in, her voice ringing with enthusiasm. She stepped forward, arms wide, the magnetic energy drawing them closer together. Jake beamed, witnessing the transformation taking place within her, just as much as in himself. When they emerged from the huddle, Zach looked lighter, a sweet innocence peeking through the earlier fear. "Can we ride more rides now?" he asked, bouncing on his feet. "Absolutely. Let us conquer that roller coaster," Max yelled, eager to dive into the fun. Jake took a moment to absorb the joy emanating from the boys. It filled the gaps of what felt lost. As they made their way through the festival grounds, the sounds of laughter became a symphony weaving tales in the night air. "You know, this community festival means a lot to everyone." Jake turned to Sarah, who walked alongside him, catching the twinkle of starlight in her eyes. "It's a safe space for kids like Max and Zach to play, and for families to connect. We need to make sure it continues." Sarah nodded thoughtfully. "I realize what you mean now. It's about more than my corporate plans. It's about finding purpose in where we belong. This town deserves a life filled with laughter." The determination in her voice chiseled away at any hesitation Jake had felt before. "I want to help, too," Zach chimed in, glancing between them, excitement bubbling over. Jake smiled down at the boy, his heart swelling. "We can all help. Together." As they reached the base of the towering roller coaster, Max practically bounced out of his skin. "This is going to be awesome," he cried, grinning widely. Jake hesitated at the edge of the line, the thrill and fear mingling within him. "All right, let us do this," he said, looking at Sarah, who stood beside him. For the first time, he didn't feel alone. They mounted the roller coaster, all of them packed in the car like a cozy little trio against the world. As the ride creaked to the top, anticipation tightened in Jake's stomach. "Just remember, sometimes you need to face your fears to truly feel alive," Sarah encouraged, shooting him a smile that lit up the dark ride. When they dropped down, screams erupted into a wild chorus of exhilaration. Max's laughter rang out like bells, and even Zach joined in, the joy bursting free from him in waves. Jake felt the weight of the world lift, embracing the thrill of the moment, eyes wide open to how quickly life could change. As the ride came to a stop, they stumbled out, breathless and laughing. "That was amazing!" Max yelled, his cheeks flushed with excitement. Jake glanced at Zach, who still wore traces of nervousness but now met this wild joy with a brave smile. "Did you enjoy that?" Jake asked. "It was the best." Zach beamed, confidence blooming with every word. Jake shared a knowing smile with Sarah, realizing they had all taken steps toward transformation that day. Moments later, they found themselves back at the fairgrounds Heart, the vibrant festival pulsing around them like a living entity. And somehow, through all the laughter and the roller coaster rides, Jake understood that their journey together held the keys to nurturing their emotional growth. He, Max, Sarah, Zach all united under a sky filled with stars. As the festival wound down, families gathered to watch fireworks dance bright in the night, glittering trails bursting overhead. Jake held Max's hand tightly, the warmth radiating between them. "Look, Dad. It's so beautiful," Max exclaimed, his voice twice the volume of the fireworks. Jake glanced at Zach and saw that he, too, was mesmerized, caught in the magic of the moment. "Yes, it is," Jake agreed, feeling his heart open in gratitude. He turned to Sarah, who stood next to him, taking in the wonder as well. In that instant, they all felt it, the magic of connection, a reminder that, no matter their struggles, kindness and empathy bind them. The festival was a place of healing, hope, and brightness, where dreams intertwined like colorful threads. As the final firework exploded, showering the night in a cascade of colors, Jake knew this was more than just a festival. It was a testament to transformation, their lives converging in a beautiful tapestry of support and belonging. "You know," Sarah said quietly, "I think this could be the beginning of something amazing." Jake nodded that evening, his heart full, embracing the journey that had unfolded. Their old lives were behind them, replaced by the possibility of brighter possibilities to come. The festival had gifted them moments of connection, laughter, hope, and those could be the anchors needed to forge a new future. Together, he whispered, and it felt real, grounding him amid the chaos of both their lives. What awaited them as the dawn broke? The story was just beginning, and the future held infinite possibilities. Love and community could change everything. Now it was time to embrace the adventure that awaited. If you've loved this journey, you need to subscribe now to not miss our next exclusive stories that will inspire your heart. Leave a like now to help us reach more people with these heartfelt tales. Comment below to share your reactions and feelings about this touching ending. And please, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to spread the love. Your support drives our community forward.